Hello, everyone. Here's your weather hazard briefing for the last Friday in January. We still have a little bit of rain and snow lingering through the weekend, especially tonight and tomorrow, but it's not amounting to much. Next week starts out on the dry side. Now, in addition to what's going on with this moisture moving through, we've had a lot of moisture, so fog and stratus, it's really not going anywhere. It'll be out there. Will it be widespread every day? Will it be dense fog every day? No, not necessarily. We'll just have to see how things trend over the next few days. Now, next week, with high pressure building in, we might have it more on a widespread basis. But again, it all depends on how things work through the weekend, how much that atmosphere dries out over the weekend. But with the inversions, fog and stratus may still be around. Otherwise, like I said, we've got rain and snow on the light side tonight through Sunday, and then we dry out at least for the first half of next week before we start the month of February. Satellite shows higher clouds on the edge of the ridge building in. Now, you'll notice over Idaho and a good chunk of southwest Montana where you see the bluish gray solid colors, that solid mass, that's all the low clouds. Some of that is fog this morning as well. You'll notice it's quickly moving west up into the Treasure Valley with that down valley flow in some areas. In some areas, the wind is out of the southwest. Some parts of the Snake Plain and Magic Valley, it's going the opposite direction this morning. So we should see that around for this morning. And like I said, seeing that on the satellite this morning shows that we're going to be probably dealing with that over the next several days in our forecast. And for the weather risk outlook for today, we did put some minor impacts for the Snake Plain and Magic Valley in the Eastern Highlands. That's because that's where we're seeing the fog this morning, and we are seeing some low visibility in a few spots. So something just to keep in mind. Otherwise, we do have some patchy fog around now this morning. We've got some light snow that's kind of hanging around, down around Coldwater, Pocatello, up through Idaho Falls and Driggs, especially right along the bench areas. Very light snow. It's probably nothing really more than some flurries if you really want to look at it that way. But that's around. We have more light snow and rain moving in from the west later today, mainly tonight into tomorrow. It's not going to amount to much at all. Sunday, we'll have some of that lingering in the central mountains in the eastern highlands and portions of southeastern highlands as that ridge starts to transition over our area. And we didn't put any fog or stratus in for Monday or Tuesday, but don't be surprised if we add that later on, depending on how things go the next few days and how those model trends do end up going through that period. So for today, there's that little bit of light snow activity like I was talking about. Otherwise, that should be gone later this morning. There still might be a flurry or two around, especially with the stratus deck in place, the higher clouds moving over that cedar feeder process you hear us mention every once in a while. Going into late this afternoon, some light rain and snow, mainly snow for the higher elevations of the central mountains, and obviously as you head back towards Boise and eastern Oregon. That will be shifting eastward very slowly this evening, and you notice it's not really organized. Once it gets outside of the central mountains, we have maybe a little bit over the Snake Plain late tonight, tomorrow morning, and then that shifts into the eastern highlands, but you'll notice it goes away pretty quickly tomorrow morning, at least the more organized activity. And then we go into later tomorrow. We still have some light snow, light rain lingering over the central mountains. That kind of lets up a little bit. Then you see another little push coming in by 5 a.m. Sunday. And going into Sunday, the central mountains, those eastern highland areas, when we have northwest flow coming through, those are the favorite areas for some very light precipitation during that period. So back to the forecast. We're going to look at the snow. We're not going to break this down every day because it's very little each and every day. So we kind of want to show you a little bit different perspective. This is for the full 72-hour period all the way through Sunday night. You'll notice in the eastern highlands, over that 3-day total, barely an inch, if even that. The snow that we're expecting to accumulate is going to be over the sawtooths, and the most likely forecast that we're showing is on the order of 1 to 2, maybe 4 inches there. Now, we can look at a couple of different things. We can tell you look at the spread of the snowfall over the area, and you'll notice the low end barely has any snow in the sawtooths. The high end has light snow generally along and east of I-15. Very little snowfall expected, maybe an inch or so over in the Tetons and the Big Holes. But you go back into the Central Mountains, an inch or two for Galena Summit and Stanley. But those Sawtooth Mountains, the higher peaks, we may see 4 to 5 inches of snow. It's still not a lot, but we're going to be tracking this moisture as we go through time, just to see what piles up in the higher elevations. Of course, we have to start thinking about that once we get to the warmer part of 2024. Now, we'll get away from that, talk about those temperatures. For today, generally in the 30s in the lower elevations, closer to 40 as you head west towards Burley into the Treasure Valley, also down towards City of Rocks and Malta. So otherwise, you go in the high country, if you're headed up there today, it's still be in the 20s. For tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow morning, it's going to be a chilly morning across the area. Won't be fairly warm until you get into the Magic and Treasure Valleys where we're closer to freezing. But tomorrow afternoon, we're going to start cranking the temperatures up a little bit. Generally in the 30s and low 40s, Twin Falls, mid-40s. Mainly not until you get to the higher elevations. Also, maybe we start to see a little bit of an inversion setting up around Lone Pine as well, up towards Monida Pass. Temperatures are right around the freezing mark. So we go to Sunday. We start to dry out a little bit. So what does that mean? Those overnight lows get a little lower in some cases. They pick up a little bit just depending on where we see some cloud cover. We might have a little more cloud cover across some areas going into Saturday night, Sunday morning, but you see the temperatures warming up. We're pushing near 50 in Twin Falls on Sunday. Otherwise, starting to even see temperatures staying just around or above freezing in the higher elevations of the Central Mountains, even over into the Tetons. So we're going to skip ahead to Tuesday. That's kind of when the ridge is almost on top of us. You're talking near 50, if not low 50s, the western parts of the Magic Valley over into the Treasure Valley. Warmer as you head up into many areas. What's going to happen? And this is our blend of models forecast, and this kind of looks at the middle of the road. It doesn't necessarily see where we're going to have inversions setting up, at least once we get a few days out. It also is not necessarily taking into account any fog or stratus that might be hanging in across the area. So it's very possible where we get the inversion setting up, we don't get very far into the 40s. Outside of the inversion areas, say for instance Twin Falls at 50, might be a little on the cool side. So watch those trends as we go through the next few days. But the idea is we warm up pretty good in the afternoons. That does mean what snow is out there, it melts. In the overnight hours, especially where we get under the inversions, it cools off. We might have some more of that freeze, melt, refreeze going on over the next few days. So something to keep in mind across the area. Even though it's dry, there are still weather going on across our area. So like I said, we've got a little bit of moisture out there today. We have the next little push, not amounting to much tonight, all the way through Sunday before that wraps up for a couple of days. Fog and stratus is around through the weekend and likely into next week. We'll just have to watch how those inversions set up. And some warmer weather. If you're tired of the 20s and 30s, or if you were hoping that the nasty cold spell we had a little bit ago is out of here, can't tell you it's not coming back at some point, but definitely not going that direction next week as we get warmer conditions across our area. Have a great Friday. Have a great weekend, and do stay safe out there, everyone.